Most entrepreneurs stay stuck at 10 to 20K a month. They won't say this out loud, but they're haunted by the feeling of they should just be further by now, right? And their talent feels bigger than their income. Their ambition feels louder than their results. And every single day, that gap gets heavier and heavier. And if that's you, keep listening, because I've lived every part of that journey. Before the systems, before AI, before the $100 million in client results, before the features in Yahoo Finance and Business Insider, Fox Interviewer, US Reporter, or the Daily Scanner, right? Before people started calling me the king of leads, I was exactly where you are right now. And I remember sitting at my desk at 2 a.m. staring at the same problems that you're dealing with. Inconsistent months, unpredictable pipelines, too many tasks, too many files open, too many fires, too many ideas, and no clear path to the next level. I mean, I felt capable, but I was capped. I felt like I was driven, but I was overwhelmed. I felt confident, but I was ashamed. Like, I was meant for the 50 to 100K months, but I was still stuck acting like a 10K operator. And then everything changed. And I made a decision that scared me the most. I invested $36,000 directly to learn from Sam Ovens. And in that mastermind, I was surrounded by killers like Cole Gordon, William Brown, Andrew Kirby. I'm pretty sure Alex Becker and Iman Gaji was in Quantum also. All of them building empires and all of them playing the game at a higher level than I was. And Sam Ovens looked at me one day on a call and said something that hit harder than anything I'd ever heard in my life. You don't scale by adding more, you scale by becoming more. And that one sentence punched a hole clean through my entire identity, because I realized in that moment, my problem wasn't leads, it wasn't offers, it wasn't funnels, it wasn't effort. My problem was my identity. And I was operating like a person who had built the 10K version of my business instead of the version who was about to build a business to the next level. So I rebuilt myself. I rebuilt the systems, I rebuilt the business, and I became the man who could create leverage instead of chaos. The man who could engineer predictable revenue. The man who could scale, not by hustling harder, but by installing structure and automation. And that's when everything changed. So I started helping home service owners, agency owners, and consultants to create predictable pipelines. And I mastered ads, appointment systems, qualification frameworks, and I spent over $2 million of my own money testing out what actually works and generating $100 million for my clients. And at this point, I was like, okay, I got something. I built an AI-powered infrastructure that books appointments, qualifies prospects, and fills calendars without the owner ever having to lift a finger. And that's how I became the king of leads. Not because I got lucky, not because I found a secret hack, but because I learned how to install systems that make unpredictable businesses predictable. And if it's the first time you're seeing me, here's what matters for you. If you're an entrepreneur who's stuck at the same revenue glass ceiling, or if you're sick or inconsistent months, or if you feel like you're one system away from a breakthrough, if you know you're meant for more and you haven't stepped into the version of you who can create, everything that I'm about to share with you is going to shift the way you scale forever. Because these are the 5 lessons that took me from being overwhelmed and capped to becoming the guy people call when they want to grow predictably without chaos. Let's get into it. Lesson 1 that I learned from Sam Ovens is you are the bottleneck, and that's the hardest truth to accept. Now, let's talk about the real reason why you're stuck. It's probably not the tactic that you're obsessing over, because most entrepreneurs, man, they're stuck because their strategy just isn't good enough. Maybe their funnel's outdated, maybe the content that they're creating isn't working, maybe they need to switch niches, or maybe it's a new platform. Maybe they just need to do what the guy on YouTube said. But Sam Ovens taught me something that sounded almost too simple to be true. You're not stuck because of your business, you're stuck because of you. And honestly, man, I didn't want to hear that. I did not want to believe that. But deep down, right, like I knew it was true, because back then my business was built entirely off of effort. If I didn't show up, the revenue didn't show up. If I didn't push, nothing got moved. If I didn't answer, the clients panicked. If I didn't grind, right, the whole thing slowed down and came to a halt. And at the time, I thought that's what made me strong. I took pride in like being the guy who could juggle everything, until Sam Ovens looked at me and looked at my situation and said something that I'll never forget. The traits that help you to reach 10K are the same traits that keep you trapped at 10K. And I had to admit this was one of the things that was really difficult for me, because there was a day when I had like 17 unread messages, 40 emails, and clients wanting updates about scripts and edits and, calls to get on that I totally forgot about. And I was literally pacing around the room, stressed and snapping at my wife and trying to just like catch up. And around midnight, I opened up my laptop, so exhausted that I could barely think. And I kept telling myself, tomorrow's gonna be different, but it never was. And when I explained all of this to Sam Ovens during one of our group calls, he didn't blink with that Sam Ovens silence, right? It's like, Arturo, you're not running a business. You're plugging leaks in a boat that you refuse refuse to rebuild. And that one line punched straight through my identity because he was right. You see, I wasn't stuck because I lacked potential. I was stuck because I refused to replace myself. And that's what most entrepreneurs between 8 and 20K land, right? They're doing everything right from the wrong identity, which leads me into lesson 2. You can't scale the old you. This one requires you letting go of who you used to be. And this lesson took me the longest to accept. You are trying to scale the wrong version of yourself. And Sam explained that we all start a business with one identity: the operator, the hustler, the doer, the person who survives by just pushing hard. But to get beyond the 20K ceiling, you have to become the owner, the architect, the director, the identity that got you here. Because the identity that got you here is the identity that's going to keep you stuck here. And joining Sam Ovens Quantum Mastermind changed my perception forever, because when I joined that, I sat in a room with guys that were doing 200, 4K, or like Alex Becker, who was doing $1 million a month when I'm watching the recordings, right? But what shocked me wasn't the revenue. It was how calm they were, how structured they were, how simple their business were. I mean, Alex Becker shut down everything after that mastermind, how clear their minds were. Meanwhile, I was a guy juggling like 12 tasks at once, sweating, typing, thinking of fires I needed to put out. And Sam watched my entire operation and explained to me one thing: I was too proud to handle all of this stuff. I thought I needed to show grit. And then he paused and he looked me straight in the eye. He was like, "You're building a business with the same identity of a man who had no help, no leverage, no structure, and no clarity. And that version got you here, but he can't take you any further." Now, this wasn't an insult. This was liberation, because for the first time I realized my overwhelm wasn't a sign of failure. It was a sign that I had outgrown the existing version of me running this business. And most entrepreneurs try to scale by working harder, when the real answer is to build a version of themselves who no longer has to. Which leads me into lesson number 3 that I learned from Sam Ovens, is that your business is built on systems, not feelings. And this third lesson, man, it drilled into me, because most entrepreneurs ignore this because it doesn't feel sexy, right? You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems. So one night, I felt like everything was kind of falling apart. And I just remember a night where 3 clients needed something urgently, right? 2 were upset and 1 needed a revision. And a prospect I was ready to buy, but I didn't have the bandwidth to overboard them, so I had to just put it on pause. Somebody else needed help with that ads. A friend kept reminding me that I still hadn't sent those numbers that I promised, right? I actually felt like I was drowning. And my wife asked me, she was like, "What do you need right now?" And I honestly just answered her, "I need 5 of me." And that's when Sam Ovens was like, "No, you need systems to replace the 5 of you." And he was right. My entire operation was built on my emotions. When I had energy, my business moved. When I was tired, everything slowed. When I was focused, things improved. When I was overwhelmed, everything collapsed. That wasn't a business, it was an emotional labor dressed up as entrepreneurship. And Sam taught me something that changed everything. Your consistency is not a flaw. It's a signal that your business relies on you instead of structure. And when I started building simple, repeatable systems, my entire life slowed down and my business sped up, which led me into lesson number 4 from Sam Ovens. Identity becomes before income. And this is the biggest shift, because this one changed me the most, right? Everything changes when you change first. And most entrepreneurs think that it's the tactics, when they actually need a new identity, because when their identity shifts, behavior shifts. When your behavior shifts, your systems shift. When your systems shift, so does your results. And doing one of the Quantum Mastermind retreats, right, Sam asked a simple question: who do you have to become to hit the next level? And I wrote down who I truly wanted to be. I wanted to be calm, confident, structured, disciplined, clear-headed, decisive, strategic, but more importantly, present. And then I compared that to like who I was actually being, which was overworked, scattered, reactionary, exhausted, inconsistent, emotionally drained, unfocused, always putting out fires and never ahead. And that gap was painful, not because I wasn't capable, but because I wasn't behaving like the version of myself that was capable of leading a 50 to 100K per month business. And Sam said, you can't build the next level of your business with the current level of your identity. And that was the moment that I realized that I needed to evolve, because it wasn't my strategy, it was myself. Which leads me into lesson number 5, is you don't have business problems, you have personal problems that show up in the business. And this was the deepest lesson that Sam ever taught me. People don't have business problems, they have personal problems that show up in the business. And in that moment, I felt like Sam Ovens had held up a mirror, because one day I was complaining about a client who wasn't respecting my boundaries, right? You know how that goes. those, right? Like too many demands, constantly messaging you, always wanting exceptions and all this other crap. I thought Sam Evans would give me some type of script or a boundary like setting tactic, but instead he was just like, that client isn't your problem, bro. It's because you lack boundaries. And I tried to argue with him, but he didn't budge, and he kept on going like, no, you struggle with saying no. So you built a business that forces you to say yes. Your clients are behaving exactly how your patterns allow. And then he looked at me and he said, if you avoid discomfort in your personal life, you will avoid decisions required for you to grow in your business. And this was a mirror that I needed to have for years at this point, right? Because every business problem that I had, the inconsistent revenue, the overwhelm, the angry clients, the chaos, the constant firefighting, was just a reflection of something in me that I hadn't fixed yet. And once I healed those patterns, the business transformed on its own. No new tactic, no new strategy, just a new version of me. So I just had to hop on here and do this quick reflection and brain dump. But if this video resonated with you, you're gonna love the next one, because this is where I break down the exact structure that Sam Evans taught me to scale from inconsistent 10 to 20K months to a predictable 50 to 100K months without adding more chaos, right? So tap the next video and I'll see you in the next episode.